is well, yes? Life is good and all is well, yes? Take a breath. As the Buddha described.
Hello, dear one.
You hear
It's a long scroll from the videos to these overlays.
It becomes fully available.
Dr. Robert with you here on a Friday night. It's 7:30 on the Mountain Time Zone. It's late. And it's time for Ask Me Anything. Yes, anything. As the poster would appear, we have, let me find this again. This is a brand new program. First time we're doing this. It's going to happen once a month on the last Friday of every month. And it's a chance to ask me anything. And it's in partnership with my dear friends at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley. I'm in partnership. We're in partnership. All kinds of fun in partnership with what's happening at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley. If you don't know, I'm going to start right there. If you don't know, we're introducing you tonight. Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley is celebrating their 25th anniversary this year, 25 years of being in existence as a New Thought community in Boulder Valley, Colorado. And I have had the pleasure to know many of the people there off and on over the years. And some I've known all the way along. And been able to support that community off and on in different ways. And this is part of that. So we'll see who shows up. Good evening, Catherine. Good to see you. Grateful that you're with us this evening. So happy that you're here. So seriously, folks, it's Ask Me Anything. Join the conversation in the chat box. If you'd like to come into the studio and ask me a question live, you're welcome to do that. And give a shout out on the live broadcast, as it were. Come on into the studio and turn on your camera, and we would be happy to have you in the studio. If you'd like to join us, just let us know. Give a shout out in the chat box, and we'll add you in. First question of the night coming from Catherine: will this chat be recorded? Yes. This is going live to YouTube, and that means that it will live in the archives. It will live and you know what happens when something goes on the internet? It's there forever. So we'll be able to find that at the CSL Boulder Valley YouTube page. And why don't I just go grab that right now? Yeah, we don't want to do. Now, see, I'm going to create myself a there we go. There we go. There's the link to the Boulder Valley YouTube page. It will live in infamy. Yes, Catherine. It will live in infamy. I keep reflecting on that recently with people that, in a lot of ways, New Thought Media Network, we were a response or grew out of the pandemic, and over time now, almost 5 years, we've been redeveloping ourselves and reimagining ourselves, and new opportunities come along, and new things happen, and because of that, we have found that in a lot of ways we're documenting some of the shifts that are happening within the New Thought movement, some of the shifts that are happening at various centers and within various communities, and through various organizations as well. And so in that documentation, we're now finding that, it's an important part. It's the keep getting the record, having the recordings, all the video, all the content that has been created. We want to make sure that we're archiving this material, because we are right now creating the history that somebody's going to look back on in 30, 50, 100 or more years and say, what was New Thought's contribution to society? What was Center for Spiritual Living? What was their contribution to society during this time? The Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Association for Global New Thought, Unity, Divine Science International, all the various families and all the various organizations and all the various ministries. How did we contribute to the evolution of consciousness? David Alexander did a piece this week over on Substack, and so this is the way this is gonna work, by the way, folks. Unless there's a specific question, you're gonna listen. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna see where spirit takes me. If you have a question, I will respond to that question. And as I said, if you'd like to join me in the studio and ask your question live, I'll be doing that a little bit as well. So we'll see where all this takes us. I spoke about the shifts in the New Thought movement. Can I talk about those a little? Yes, and I want to. So let's come back around real quick to what I was about to say. Reverend Dr. David Alexander, put out a great post on Substack this week, and in that he reminded us that no matter what branch of New Thought we found. Hey, that was interesting. No matter how we found ourselves here, the number one principle of it all, consciousness is everything. And the consciousness, the collective consciousness of what we bring to the movement is what the movement becomes. And the way we get to that collective consciousness is through the individual consciousness. So, for example, and I see the second part of your question there, Catherine, and we're going to make sure we get to that. So, did New Thought, some would say we were born out of Christianity. Some say we were a Christian, a response. Some would say we're an offshoot. And we don't really have it in Dr. Holmes's writing or in the film. Well, and we know that the Fillmores and Unity were a bit more, I'm going to say it, religious to the Christian side of it all. But I don't believe the philosophy of New Thought was wholly Christian from its beginning. And this is an interesting question, because there's also an apologist that I've been following recently that wants to rip apart New Thought. But I can say this: in the earliest iterations of New Thought, consciousness is everything, and that's where we ended as well. We did our work in consciousness and consciousness alone. Now, I believe, and through the teachings of liberation theology and other aspects of New Thought, we have grown where consciousness is everything, but it is also not the ending. Consciousness is everything, and in that everything there must be inspired action. We must have more and be willing to be willing to get a little dirt under our fingernails, be willing to do a little more work than maybe ever before. It Now, on an individual level, if we were born into Christianity on the individual level, and we find ourselves as a unique emanation of God, moving more in alignment with the new thought principles, that's kind of a different journey. But it really comes back to consciousness is everything. And so if you find yourself in new thought, but you're running away from Christianity, you're in the consciousness of running away. If you're in a consciousness of embrace and recognizing that the highest and the best is always happening, and whatever's happening is happening for the highest and the best, then we get to a place where when I find myself in a new, perhaps moving away from something and into something more, it's more of a natural flow to what is the design. Yes, Catherine, faith, I would agree. Faith without works is dead. Absolutely. We can't, and otherwise we're just sitting around convincing ourselves that we believe what we say we believe. I mean, it becomes a form of it becomes a form of mental and spiritual masturbation at that point, if we don't actually do something with all this. Now, doing something with it might be getting out and marching in a march. Doing something might be staying home and getting your prayer work on, but being visible about it and vocal about it. I'm tired of new thought hiding its light under a bushel. Oh, you just wrote that. I didn't read that first, Catherine. I'm sorry. See, this is the one mind. That's the way the one mind works. You think it, and it's coming into being. And there's time where there's and what we want to always remember in all of this, from my perspective, is that new thought is a collection of beings. It's more than a philosophy. It can't be just a philosophy. And yes, it is. I don't know if my camera's dropping out for you guys. It's interesting because everything seems to be working normally. That we have to be active. We have to be, for me, the absolute living out picturing, the demonstration of this philosophy is one of inspired action. I don't know how you can spend, I don't know how you, I mean, I see it happen, but it confounds me. The more time I spend in new thought, the more I recognize that it is a philosophy of revelation, a philosophy of surrender, but a philosophy of inspired action. And we've got to get out and make it real in the world. And if we're not making it real in the world, if all I'm doing is serving myself, and that's a big key in all of this, because let's jump into a little spiral dynamics real quick. Right? The majority of new thought exists in a first tier consciousness that is one step above orange. The majority of new thought exists in a green consciousness that is one step above orange, and orange is exactly what we're getting when we in the current belief system that is the MAGA movement in the United States. Right, that's all orange. All of that is an orange worldview. And most of New Thought operates at a worldview that is a little more evolved than that. That's a little bit more in the less of the individual and more of the community and the group. And Catherine, spiral dynamics, just type it into Google. I will not, we do not have the time to do a basic introduction to spiral dynamics. Suffice it to say, it is a cascading group of colors that help to define human consciousness and an evolutionary path of human consciousness. And we all go through it. And we all spent time at that orange level in consciousness. And we are all traveling, and I believe the human soul, we are traveling where we eventually come to a yellow state, that second tier or yellow stage of consciousness. So if orange is the predominant outpicturing of human collective consciousness at the moment, and most of New Thought is in a green collective consciousness, we have the opportunity to open up some eyeballs and offer some people in that orange realm a step forward. The most are not going to take it. That's the nature of human evolution. It's a messy process. And beyond the green, there is that yellow perspective where we see an even greater sense of it is in green. We got to get our own healing in order. We do our own work in order so that we can do the work with others. And we're very conscious about not leaving anyone behind and working in the collective, but it all does stem from that individual ability to do the work. Once we get to yellow, now we're working in the systemic realm. And now we're working as the collective body that makes the transformation. And the we is more of a communal we and less of a it's a bit more of a societal we rather than just a community we. It's messy. We'll be talking about spiral. Hang out with me. We'll be talking about spiral dynamics up and down the universe for eons, because I'll have to. I realize I'll put together. I can put together a resource for it, and Jim Lockhart. Let's go to Jim Lockhart. Jim's got some great basic primers on how to understand spiral dynamics, especially in light of New Thought. Let me find. I'm going to pull up his. Let's pull this up. I'll drop that in here. So putting that in the comments of this program, our good friend Jim Lockhart, he writes a blog, New Thought Evolutionary, Creating the Beloved Community. And don't know how to find it directly, but if you look throughout his blog, he's got some great introductory articles, complete with charts and graphs and colors and the whole 9 yards, that helps us to understand spiral dynamics a bit better. So, all right, who's out there, folks? I can see some likes, I can see some hearts, I can see some people in some rooms. Whether you're watching on the Boulder Valley YouTube channel or on the New Thought Media Network channel, I know there's some people out there. Let's get some questions there. All right, Diana Mangus from CSL Summit Center. So Diana, we're gonna flip those. We don't want to get to blue. Blue actually comes before orange in this model, so we don't want to get to blue. And what we're doing, and it's a great question, because we can't actually force anybody to evolve. We can't force anybody to grow. As much as we might want to, as much as we would really like someone to get their, together. That's part of this model, this concept, is that we can't pull somebody forward. Once we move into a higher realm of consciousness, we also can't go back. So we can, however, and in the integral movement, people will refer to this as transcend and include. I transcend that old belief pattern, but I include my awareness that still exists. And I offer a hand that says, hey, I can show you a way, but I can't force you to take the hand. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. We can lead a human to the truth, but we can't force them to see it, to accept it. So the way, sort of, to help people, if you will, Diana, is to be a great demonstration, to be a great model, to be living this in a way. And that's one of the things that makes it, right? You can tell a new thoughter who's stuck in green because they're still making Donald Trump a villain. They're still making orange a villain. When we come up into second tier, we recognize that orange is absolutely vital to the overall thing, even though we may not like it. And even though we want to see that humanity transcend that, we're going to keep saying it. The work of cultural evolution is a long and messy job. It doesn't happen overnight. Hello, Tara. Glad you're with us. And look at this. My beloved is in the room. Hello, dear Laura. Grateful to see you there. And a blue heart to go. I love it. So, I really do wish there was a quick and easy answer to how we drive evolutionary change. It's a long and messy road for evolutionary change, and we got to be in it to win it. It's a few years old now, but I just found a copy of Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Just found its way into my library, and in that she talks about her use of the quote, and I've forgotten the name of where it originated already, but the quote that centers around, you have to be in the arena. Right. And I'm with her from the first time I read her, when I first heard her use that quote. I'm all in. If you're not doing the work, I'm not interested in your criticism. If you're doing the work, I'm fully interested in your criticism, because I know your criticism is not criticism. It is feedback. It is support. It is helping me to move them forward. And it's we're in a place right now, actually, where it is imperative to know who's in the arena and who's not. And truthfully, again, if you're not in the arena, I don't have time for the conversation. Everybody remember the term the peanut gallery, right? If you know the origination of that, you know where that all started, how we came. I imagine it came from the circus or something, but if you know where the peanut gallery came from, let me know. But it's life is too valuable and time is too short. And the road of cultural evolution is long and messy. And if I'm going to do the work, I want to do the work with people who are committed to doing that work. Yes. And seen all of that, Catherine. New thought people that are afraid of losing out on what they've built, who aren't trusting, and they need that experience to help them move into that place of absolute trust and absolute trust. That, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how ends are going to meet. I don't know how something is going to contribute to the overall evolution of consciousness. I don't know how the money's going to show up in time. I don't know how the people are going to show up in time. And that's okay, because it's not really my job to know the how. It's not any of our job to know the how. It's our job to know what. Consciousness is everything. If I know what it is I desire, if I know what it is I want to see, not what I don't want to see, as in I don't want who's in the president's seat, right? I don't want them. I don't want that. We got to be focused on what we do want. Consciousness is everything. So we build up that consciousness that says, even in the darkest of moments, I have to know that I am prosperous and abundant, and that everything necessary for the perfect evolution of my life is coming into my life exactly as it's necessary. So when the money is necessary, the bills get paid. When the bills are due, the money's there to pay them. Either way, I've got to be in that vibration, that consciousness of plenty. I've got to be in that consciousness that recognizes there's nothing broken or wrong here. There is an outpicturing of consciousness. And the collective consciousness cannot be denied. It's always going to be. It's going to be. Now, how we show up in response to that is a completely different story, is a whole nother story. Not a different, but a whole nother story. A whole nother chapter in the story, how we show up in response to these things. Diana says, the peanut gallery is from vaudeville in the late 1800s, reversed to the cheapest seats in the theater, using usually in the balcony. Yeah. I think the time is now more than ever for new thought to get up out of the cheap seats. We have seen that consciousness. And I don't want to paint a broad brush. I don't want to whitewash, sorry, wrong term. I don't want to wash over all of new thought with the same colored brush, with a generalization, because, well, we're all one, and everyone is necessary. So there has to be, the universe, this thing called life would be incomplete without the doubters and the haters. I just don't have to give them, I don't have to justify their hatred. I don't have to, it's there, sure, but does it need to be there? No. And this is kind of a thing I've gotten into with someone recently that's really pushing back in some social avenues where I hang out. And I don't want to use any names, or I don't want to try to call anybody out, but this person is really trying to push that the flaw of New Thought is that while we claim inclusion, we also want to have our boundaries. And that, and I guess if we're going to say we're radically inclusive, then yes, we have to include those that throw around Nazi symbols and signs and gang signs and salutes and every other thing. And that's their point, is that the New Thought has a tendency to say no, when no is a holy word. When no is a holy aspect of consciousness. And I think it is absolutely right and proper to say no to a misuse of the law. I think it's right and prosper and right and proper to say no to error thinking and error consciousness and limitation-based consciousness and fear-based consciousness. And I get it, people are afraid. And I get it, you can't just say, don't be afraid. But then again, wasn't it Jesus that said, be not ye afraid? Right? Like, if we really look at this, we might need a little bit of a wake-up call in this country. New Thoughters might need a wake-up call that says, stop being afraid. Stop being afraid your congregation is going to revolt if you take a measured stance for human rights. Stop being afraid that you're not going to have enough money to pay the bills for a new roof on your church, or that, like, let's step more fully into what we teach and stand courageous in the consciousness that says there is enough. And this is working. Catherine Sharon, it seems to me, concerning trust, it seems to me that the only thing we can count on is the presence of spirit. That's it. We can't count on anything else. Catherine, we're just going to back up a second. There is nothing other than spirit. So there's nothing else that we would need, that we could count on. Yes, you're right. And whatever happens, it's not so much that we embrace it, but we recognize its validity. Whatever happens, we recognize that it's valid. Doesn't mean I have to love it. Doesn't mean I have to say, oh, this is wonderful. So yes, we're not counting on, we want to count on, yes. So we can't count on money to pay the bills, and we can count on the divine source to source and pay the bills. Now, you're right, we can't count on the fire to not burn the house down. And what we can count on is that we can get through it. Now, how we get through it is going to generally be based on how we've gotten through it in the past. So we can count on that we'll get through it, because we have in the past. And if we haven't in the past, that's the time to get with a practitioner. That's the time to get with a spiritual guidance counselor of some sort, a minister, a practitioner, somebody that can work you and walk you through it. So there is only God, and we trust that. We trust that that is true. And we trust that if we stay in alignment with truth, then we are building a consciousness of trust and love and truth, and that's what we're going to get. It's when we fall into the trap of believing that this stuff maybe doesn't work, or it didn't seem to work for this person, or it didn't seem to work over there, or it didn't seem to work in my life for something I wanted. I mean, come on, there were a lot of really good people out there praying for something other than Donald Trump. There were a lot of really good people praying for a Kamala Harris win. There were a lot of really good people out there praying that that we can find a solution to the migrant experience that we're having in this country that doesn't involve guns and military. And the prevailing consciousness of America said otherwise. So we can count on consciousness. We can count on it to work. We can count on the law. We can count on the law. We can count on spirit. We can count on the law to do what the law does. And what does the law do? The law creates. The law maybe doesn't create according to my vision, but the law creates. And as we loose a prayer into the world, as we loose a belief into the world, the creation will and must happen. It can't be any other way. But, no buts. Yeah, that's what Spirit wants me to say about that. That's what Spirit wants me to say about that. There are some other things that Spirit wants me to talk about, folks. So we're going to take a moment to do that. Not only are we here, and I want you to know we're going to be here on the last Friday of every month. So February 28th is the next time we're going to be here. However, throughout, starting tomorrow morning, it's Black History Month. And we're going to be sharing a new Black History Month moment every morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Time. These will be automatically published to YouTube. You can catch them at any time throughout the day over on our website or on our YouTube in the back office there. Check those out. Plus, it is season for nonviolence. Those video series has already started as well. You can sign up to get a daily email at sfnv2025.gr8.com or scan that QR code and come join in 64 Days of Nonviolence, our daily meditation series. Again, every morning, uploaded daily at 6 a.m. Eastern time. That says Eastern time. I better change those because it's supposed to be Mountain time. So there we go, folks. There's always a little something going on we didn't know about. Look at that. I got another heart. Good to see you, dear one. My dearly beloved has been away taking care of family and visiting with family for a couple of weeks, and she has been missed around this household. So looking forward to you being home with us soon, honey. Looking forward to that. And folks, if you're not doing anything, I don't think I have a placard for this one, but if you're not doing anything Sunday morning, come hang out with the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley. On the first and the third Sunday of each month, we do a virtual service at 10 a.m. Mountain Time in Zoom room. If you head over to the website, cslbouldervalley.org, you can get the link for that Zoom room and join us in the Zoom room. On the second and the fourth Sundays, we do live services, and we generally record those and share those out. So if you want to hang out even more, catch talk by myself, catch talk by my lovely wife, catch talk by one of our guests, head on over to the Boulder Valley YouTube channel as well. You can catch up more of that. So, all right, what else is out there? You're still here, so I must be saying something that's keeping you interested. Got a thumbs up there from our dear friend Reverend Kathy Mastriani. Good to see you, dear one. Glad you're here. Brian Black, glad to see you drop by, sir. Anybody else that's watching, feel free to chat along, chime along, ask a question. Otherwise, you just get whatever's I'm going to babble about. And if you ask my wife, you'll know I'm pretty good at babbling. Ask my kids, they'll tell you I can go on and on as well. We've always got something to talk about, and I've always loved that about New Thoughters is we were from the very beginning. For my experience in New Thought, at least, has been that we're taught how to think, not what to think. And a lot of teachers, a lot of churches, a lot of communities, they like to teach what to think. And truthfully, now that I say that, that's a big part of what's the problem right now in our political system is people are being told what to think and they just say okay without actually taking time to think. And if nothing else, New Thought has been for me a philosophy of critical thinkers, people that want to look a little more deeply at our experiences and how we can control those experiences, how we can shape those experiences. I said it earlier tonight on the Good News. If you're not familiar with the Good News, every Friday at 5 o'clock on New Thought Media Network, a half hour of good news stories. And they're all archived as well and playlisted. You can catch those on the playlists. And we share the good news stories. And I was sharing in there that there's a story of travel being restored between China and India after a 5-year hiatus. And one of the things that real early in my New Thought education that really captured me and caught my attention was a line in what was known at the time as the global vision, which is we envision a world where borders are irrelevant. Now, you can't really say that right now and not have people just laugh at you, at least outside of CSL or New Thought, right? Everyone, there is a prevalent consciousness, human consciousness, that borders are necessary, that borders are relevant, that we have to have borders. And we can look at the rhetoric around the southern border of the United States right now, and I wonder if Canadians are saying the same thing about their southern border. That maybe they should close their southern border too. I don't know, but I want to come back that there's been this piece for me of where borders are irrelevant, and it's times like this where I come back around to that how is it possible to live in a world where the prevailing consciousness was that borders are irrelevant. Now that requires that we all feel like we're safe, right? Feels that requires a number of things, a collective consciousness that we don't have yet, but it doesn't mean we can't have it. And I know a lot of places where neighbors live and the property line between one house and another, one property and another, is non-existent, where there is no border between the people. I think a lot of our problems are when we are too fiercely defensive of borders, rather than allowing for a free, and I will use the word, a free migration of humans, where we're all working together towards that common vision. And we can, but we have to imagine it first. We have to imagine it first. I don't know that we'll get there in this lifetime. I doubt it. But I got to stop myself and no, don't do it. Don't doubt it, Robert. Don't doubt. Be in that place of trust, right? Let's raise up the vibration that says this is possible. Catherine brings a good point. State borders are mostly irrelevant here in the United States for the most part. If you're on a, as I travel the United States, what I notice is it's usually just the quality of the roads. The scenery doesn't, the scenery at a border stays the same, and there's some extra signs, and my GPS tells welcome to a new state. But for the most part in this country, now regions, and again, we know that certain belief systems migrate to certain regions, but state borders, for the most part. I'm thinking of driving into Missouri from Kansas on like Route 470. You're just on a major highway. You don't know that you've crossed a boundary, and it doesn't matter because the Best Buy on one side looks just the same as the Best Buy on the other. The supermarket on one side is just the same as the other. And if we are really living a world of oneness, if we're really in this thing called one, if we're really in this to express oneness, let's let go of some of these ideas. Now, it doesn't mean everybody's going to follow along, and it doesn't mean that there's going to be peace on earth tomorrow. But if we can do it, then others can do it. And if we do it, others might join us. We don't have to go screaming from the rooftops that we're the group that doesn't believe in borders. We just got to not believe in borders. We don't have to shout from the rooftops that we're the people that don't believe in limitations. We just have to stop believing in limitations. What are your questions? What do you got out there? This is supposed to ask me anything. Not just me babble on for all night, but I will. And we're just over halfway there. So, we can keep going. As long as you're still here, I'm happy to keep going. But I want to know, what's in your heart? What are you thinking about? What are the burning questions that you might have? What are the not so burning questions? But I can't give you the winning lottery numbers. I'm sorry. Never tried that experiment. You would think we should be no, I don't want to go down that. What are we doing? Where are the questions? All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I am gonna take a let's see, a 60-second. Nope. I'm gonna take a minute or a little more to wet my whistle, stretch, and say thank you. And take a moment to say thank you to our organizational sponsors and individual donors. Please stay with me. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And let's say thank you to a few folks, and we'll be back in just a minute. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. All right, we're back for more of Ask Me Anything here on a Friday night. Joining in, hanging out, wondering what your thoughts are, wondering what questions you might have. I am uh, hanging out on a Friday night and ready to answer questions. I'd rather answer questions than babble along. It's more fun to know that, that you're finding something of value here, and that's a big word for me, and I know for many, and I trust that no matter that for the most part, I know there's sometimes perhaps, but for the most part, I trust that you find value here in what we're doing. As part of New Thought Media Network, as part of the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley, as part of Centers for Spiritual Living itself, as part of the New Thought movement, that you're finding some value, because for me, that's what I have found. Over 20 years now, I have found a great amount of value in the words of the philosophy, in the teachings, in the people, so much in the people to help me along my journey, to support me when I'm feeling down or when things aren't going right, to step in and say, you know what, I can lend a hand there, or hey, let me help out here. It's really important, I believe, to be connected to people, and I value people very highly. And I think that's the number one around all of this, is that we come to know what we value. Yeah, Catherine, bringing out the deep questions. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who speaks about the non-existence of evil, the non-reality of evil, and yet we see evil all the time. It certainly seems to exist. You give yourself your answer there, Catherine. It seems to exist. I look at evil simply as a misuse of the law. It's error thinking, but it is not inherently evil as so many were taught to believe in evil. And especially if you've come out of a Christian background of any sort, that juxtaposition of an inherently evil consciousness. Number one, for me, it can't be. By the laws of the universe, if there were a power for good and a power for evil, one of them would have won by now. It can't be a balanced teeter-totter for all of eternity. It just doesn't make sense to me. So evil, and especially as Emma says it, that's one of the great denials. There is no evil. One of the great truths. There is no evil. There is the perception of that. There is a human judgment of that. Do I like? I know it sounds like I just harp about politics sometimes, but right, it's just the easiest example, and it's the one that's in front of our face in so many ways right now, and most times it's the easiest place to do our prayer work, because it is so easy to see and say that person is evil. They're a person. They're a person. They are brought into this world the same as every one of us. And somewhere along the way, they learn to use these principles in error. They learned how they learned they could use the law, but only for themselves. for the me instead of for the we. So, and in that same stuff, if you're reading Emma right now, Emma also says there is no matter. Feels like there's matter to me. These are high-level metaphysical truths to help us to come to a deeper understanding that it all comes back to the vibration, and if we follow the vibration back, it all comes back to consciousness. Consciousness is everything. You will hear, and you will hear people in new thought circles and say it's all energy. It's all energy. It's all energy. It's all energy. No, it's not. It's all consciousness. Consciousness is energy. There is no there is one. There is consciousness. And it's easier, Catherine in the chat box saying it's easier to believe that there is no evil than it is to believe that there is no matter. Exactly. Yep. Emma's a deep thought. And I think a very required, in my opinion, study. Here we go. So this is the thing, right? No one person has all the answers to every part of this thing. And everyone wants to believe that their personal guru does. If you follow Holmes, it's easy. You want to believe that Holmes has all the answers to all of it. And the best way to explain it all. And if you follow Emma, then you believe Emma has all. And if you follow Troward, then Troward's got all. And if you follow the Fillmores, then the Fillmores have all the answers. And if you follow Reverend Ike, then Reverend Ike has all the answers. And if you follow Reverend Michael Beckwith, then he's got all the answers. And yes and no. And if you follow me, then I have all the answers. Yes and no. No and yes. No, I don't. But yes, I have the ability to tap into that source that does. Every one of us shares this philosophy in a different way. And in Emma's time, for the people that Emma worked with, and for the time in consciousness, she had to be in that place of consciousness. And I think this would work I think this is important for all of us. Right? She had to be in a consciousness where there is no evil, where it is not possible, where there is no form, where there is no matter, where it is not possible. Perhaps we would do better as a human species to get back to some of that absolutism in New Thought, in our philosophy. I believe my dear wife is still here with us, and she'll laugh when she recognizes where I'm going with this, because in our family, we have a long-running joke, and this was a Geico commercial from like way back at this point. And it's three elderly women sitting around in a living room, and one of them refers to having pictures of her family on her wall, and the camera cuts away, and she's got, printed out copies of her family scotch taped to her living room wall. And another woman in the room says, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And I sometimes feel like we are in that time where there are far too many people that think they understand the metaphysics of New Thought, that think they understand New Thought itself. But it's really not. It's not how this works. I think many would do well to be in a consciousness of that absolutism again. And to remember that while New Thought at its inherent core is a self-help movement, the purpose of getting our own stuff clean and healthy and healed and organized is so that we can go out in the world and do some good. I really love what Reverend Dr. David Alexander is doing with liberation theology and bringing that to a forefront conversation. A New Thought has been accused of being a prosperity gospel, and it is. New Thought has been accused of being a self-help book on steroids, and it is. New Thought has been accused of being a lot of things. The most recent I've run into is it's being accused of being snake oil and leading good Christians astray. And perhaps we are. Perhaps we are. But ultimately, what I know is this stuff works. It does work, but you've got to work it. We don't get to just throw, you don't get to just put a vision board up on the wall without actually being emotionally invested in it. It doesn't do any good to speak affirmations if you don't believe that's going to work, or if you're not willing to do the work of in consciousness that brings that forward. It's none of this works unless you work it. We can't just say, oh, I went to a class and now my life is better. We have to be working it. And that means every day. Not just Saturdays not just Sunday mornings and sometimes on Wednesday evenings, and if there's a class on Tuesday or Thursday. But every living day is a day to be practicing, to be a way of life, to be a way of living. And I've got my pile of journals, and my gratitude journal and my morning journal and my big journal for when I'm, and my visioning journal. And to me, that's a vital, but everybody's going to make this up a little differently, right? This stuff works if you work it, but you got to work it, and you got to work it in a way that works for you. And the only way we get there is if you make it up. You've got to figure out what works for you. Is it prayer? Is it meditation? Is it visioning? Is it meditative inquiry? Is it journaling? Is it walking? Is it sex? Is it coffee? Is it tea? Is it smoking? Is it not smoking? Is it exercise? Is it biking? Is it running? What is it for you that gets you in that consciousness of oneness and supports you in staying there? It supports you in staying there. And I get it. Nothing like social media to test our abilities, right? Nothing like social media to call me to my greatness. Because that's a really easy place to attack. It's a really easy place to say, you don't understand. It's a really easy place to say, you're wrong. And believe me, I get it. And I do my best not to do it to other people. And sometimes people put out some of the stupidest stuff in the world. And I just want to blow up. And I just want to rail. And I just want to tell somebody off. And I know the dopamine hit I'll get for it. But I also know the price I'll pay for it. Because down the road, it's going to come back as an accusation, as a rip on my thing, one of my things, or another, and that's why we have community for me, that's so huge why we have New Thought Community. So we do have safe places to talk these things out, whether it's in a Sunday afternoon at a church or whether it's on a Tuesday morning online, whether it's at a coffee conversation at a coffee shop or in a Zoom room, wherever we can gather and work through and talk about and process through the things that are happening, the things we don't understand, the things that knock us off our center. And, you know, I want to be really clear. It's not that I'm have anything special or that ministers have anything special or any special secret. We have no more information than anybody else in our communities because our whole job is to give you everything we've got. We try as hard as every minister I know tries as hard as they can to give everybody in their community everything they have as far as knowledge and wisdom and insight and experience and demonstrations of how this stuff works and how you can work it. And we just have more experience at it is all. We've just been doing it longer. We've been more committed. We're committed to being the teachers of it as well as the practitioners of it. But you have the power. You have within you, every one of you, whether you're watching this now or at another time, you're watching this 50 years from now in some archive room, and you're going, who is this guy? Never heard of this guy. Ask me anything. What's going on? And you're sitting here an hour later going, wow, what did I get into? Well, you got into truth. And we know the truth when we hear it, and we know the truth when we don't hear it. So don't listen to what isn't. Don't listen to the lies. You can tell the truth when you know the truth when you hear it. You are the truth embodiment. We're each the truth embodied. And when we know that, when we affirm that, when we embrace that, when we take that as who we really are, the truth embodied, the truth embodied in a body, we are the truth in a body. No, let it shine. Back to this little light of mine, Catherine. We're back. Sing it again. Let's sing it again, folks. This little light. No, I'm not going to sing. But you are the truth in your body. Let's let that shine. Let's let that out. Let's let people know. Let's be that. There is no greater outcome, I believe, for a student of this philosophy than to live it fully, not half-assed, not three-quarters, not holding back a little just in case, no plan B, full out, full commitment. And my experience over 20 years is the people I've seen that do that, great success is assured. Success in our time is assured. Success, unlike what we may even anticipate, is assured when we really commit to this, when we live it full out. Catherine's got another question. You mentioned spiritual practices. What are your top three? And is that even a fair question? Excuse me. Of course, it's a fair question. All questions are fair, even when they're not. And overall, this is kind of what is your favorite child type of question. Which is your favorite child? Parents that know, if you get asked who's your favorite child, there's no real answer to that question. And that's why we have our favorite children, our favorite child, right? You're my favorite child. Sometimes this one is, sometimes that one is, sometimes the other one is, right? And in my years, in my time, I have gone through phases where various practices hold that number one spot, and part of it is the conditions of the day. When stuff is really, really, really off the rails, and I am just lost, and I don't feel connected, and I don't feel the oneness, then I turn to prayer. First and foremost, always. And I want to remember, in case somebody's wandered in here and doesn't know what we're talking about as far as new thought, or this is kind of new to you, I'm not talking about a begging and a beseeching prayer. I'm not talking about, oh, please, please, bless me. I'm talking about an affirmative prayer, a prayer that affirms, that reminds me of my oneness. So if life's kind of hitting the fan, as it were, if I'm out of the frying pan and I'm definitely in the fire, always turn to spiritual mind treatment. If I'm sitting down for pure enjoyment, I turn to meditation. And I use meditation even more as sort of that regulator, that temperature type regulator. When I need to come down, nothing like a good old just receiving type of meditation. And tonight, when we're done here, I will be amped up. So I will be in a place, and folks, we're only about 20 minutes away from the end here already. So I will be so amped up after this that I will just need to quiet and shut down. However, with that, I think most people that know me know and would immediately say that my number one spiritual practice is the life visioning process, or what I also call meditative inquiry. And I love being in the conversation. I love being in that conversation and waiting for the sparks and watching for the reminders and the nooks and the crannies, and it's a little more of an active meditation, and it's a little more of a conversation than a prayer, and it is my absolute favorite. Now, with that, we're going to throw another one in. Where's my da-da-da-da-da-da-da? I also absolutely love the Labyrinth. There it is. It's right in front of me. I love the Labyrinth. And back when I was graduating from ministerial school, this is come back here. There it is. It's got my name and Holmes Institute, class of 2011. This was a graduation gift to the seniors the year I graduated from Holmes Institute. And what I love about this Labyrinth is I actually got a little stick, and it's got a little groove, and you can follow along, and you can, let's see if I can do this. And there we go. And I walk the Labyrinth all the time. Yes, it's a slice of wood. And so for me, the Labyrinth also has a very special place in my spiritual practice. Whether it's an outdoor labyrinth that you're actually walking physically, or a little piece of wood that's a tracing labyrinth, and I don't get out every day to walk, but it is part of the consciousness. And this too is a created as you go. They built a really nice labyrinth over at Unity Village, huge, monstrous labyrinth. It takes forever to walk the thing. I love it because it's a deep, deep contemplation. And I have long used a couple of the visioning questions in my own personal practice, so that as I walk in the labyrinth, the first half of as I walk in, I contemplate what is it that wants to be released. What am I here to let go of? What am I going to leave at the center of this walk? What's no longer? And I ask myself recurring or rotating release type questions as I walk into the labyrinth. And then on the second half, on the return, on the walk out, I will ask myself embracing type questions. What wants to be embraced? Or what is mine to do? Or what are my next action steps? And so I combine parts of one with parts of another. And again, this is where it kind of comes back to you're making it up as you go along. We're all making it up. This thing called life, we're all making it up as we go along. So I highly suggest you make it up so it works for you. And in that regard, you're free to blend all of these various practices and create, the practice of Catherine or the practice of Robert or the practice of anyone, right? We each get to create what's going to work the best for us. Because ultimately, we are all one. And truthfully, you cannot be separate from the divine. We are all unique emanations of the one God. And in that oneness, right, we use that line a lot too. There is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. I like to throw in that life is your life now too, to remind myself. Life is my life and your life right now. There is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And we are emanations of that. We are absolutely vital emanations of that, truthfully. Think of it this way. If you are on the planet at this time, then who you are and what you do and how you show up is absolutely vital. Makes all the difference in the world that you are here. And this world would be a much, much lesser place without you. Without the gifts that you bring, without the gifts that only you can bring. Think about that for a minute. And all of the 7 billion people on the 8 billion people, probably 8.5 billion at this point, I don't know. We can look it up. Of all those 8 billion plus people on this planet, there's only one of you. Nobody's going to do it like you are. Might be people who do it somewhat like you do. They might do some of the same things you do, but you are absolutely unique. And what that tells me is that who you are is necessary. I'm pretty sure that with 8 billion people on the planet, if who you were wasn't necessary, you wouldn't be here. So the fact that you are here means that who you are and what you do is necessary to the evolution of human consciousness. Because that's what this is all about. God's life is the evolution, and God's life is the evolution of consciousness, from my perspective, of all consciousness. Consciousness of my furry creatures. Don't tell me the fish in my fish tank don't know when it's dinner time, or when I'm sitting there watching them, or I'm not. They beg for food just as much as the furry creatures do. There's a consciousness in all of life. We as humans are here to evolve human consciousness, to be the vessel through which consciousness evolves itself. That means you're necessary. That means the way you see it is different and unique, and that's necessary for the mixture, for the whole mix. You ever try to make cookies and forget the baking powder? They kind of like cookies. They might still taste kind of good, but they're not they're not cookies, right? We're all unique emanations of the perfect cookie dough. We are each little blobs of the perfect cookie dough. God blobs. Little blobs of God just running all over the place. Non-individual and unique gods. Blobs of the one God. And in that, well, there is the basis of new thought. If we, right, there's the first stumbling block. If we don't come to that realization, if we're not ready to accept that we are blobs of God, perfect, whole, complete expressions of the divine, never to be repeated, nothing broken, nothing absent, nothing missing, nothing wrong, absolutely perfect. We've got to come to that first. And if there is any question of that truth, that's where we do our work. That's where it starts. And sometimes, after 20 years of being in this philosophy, folks, more, 23 now almost, more than 23. In all these years, I'm almost at 25. We're just going to say 25. What do you think? You with me? In almost 25 years of being in this thing, of being in this philosophy, there are still days where the question of my own divinity gets in the way. So if that's still the same for you, if that's for you, if you still have those days where maybe it's a little tough to see your own divinity, where maybe it's a little tough to remember that I am a divine, perfect, whole, and complete expression of God, of the divine, of the allness, of the oneness, of the everything. If don't beat yourself up on it. That's okay. But get thee to a practitioner. Get thee into a conversation with somebody. Let somebody else hold that truth for you. It's one of the things I've heard so many times. Right? Practitioners, ministers, we are here to hold the truth on your behalf when you're having a hard time remembering it. If you can't remember the truth of who you are, get somebody who can. Get somebody who will remember. Get somebody who will be in a place of consciousness of remembering. And I've heard it said this way too, that in the work of a good practitioner, we hold the belief when the client is either incapable or unwilling to hold it. So it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. If you can believe that I believe it. If you can believe that I believe you are whole and complete, that's enough. Because that's all the foothold that spirit really needs. If you're willing to believe that it's possible, if you're willing to believe that someone else can believe on your behalf, then that's all the opening the divine and spirit needs. And anything can be changed, anything can be healed, anything can be shifted in our lives. There's the truth. With 6 minutes left to go. Unless there are any other pressing questions, I think we're going to start wrapping this up, because that does feel like it is enough. Feels like that's what wants to be said today. That's what wanted to be said. That's what wanted to be brought forward. I want to thank you for being here. For those of you that are sticking it out with me, if you're on the East Coast, oh my gosh, you might want to, it's getting late. The news is just getting over. So if you're on the East Coast, the news is just starting. If you're on the East Coast, what are you doing? You're not going to bed yet. If you're on the West Coast, there's still time to head out and enjoy more of the evening if you like. I'm here on the Mountain Time Zone, and it's been a wonderful experience. It's been a wonderful time. I want to thank you for being with us. Please let your friends and family know what we're doing. Share it around. Share the replay of this. Join us next month. I'm getting back to the it'll be February 28th next month. Last Friday of the month, February 28th, right here on the CSL Boulder Valley YouTube page. Check that out and join us for that. We'd love to have you. And again, if you want to jump in and ask a question in person, we can make that happen. So give that some thought for next month. In the meantime, stay with us on New Thought Media Network. Check out what we're doing at CSL Boulder Valley. Some really good people there, and a good consciousness there, and a good community there. And there's the seed of greatness is blossoming in there. And I encourage you to check out what we're doing. It feels like a sacred calling that I and my wife are there at this time, and at this time in history, that we're a part of that community. We'd love for you to come share some of that with us as well. All right. I can't think of anything else other than a great big thank you. We've said thank you to our sponsors. I think I've said thank you to everybody that's in the room. But if you're not in the room and you're watching it another time, thank you for investing in this time. If you have any further questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. You can reach me at ntmedia.org or just shout out into one of the boxes. Catherine, thank you for keeping the questions flowing. I know you came stocked with a few good ones, and I appreciate you for that as well. I'm Dr. Robert Brzezinski. I'm getting out of here for now, as soon as I can find my exit strategy. There it is. Until next time, I want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.